I would like you all to stand and give a round of applause for our next speaker, Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
Get a picture. Viola, I think.
It is beyond an incredible honor to share the stage with Albie the King. I had the opportunity to meet her about a decade ago, and wow, what an incredible woman, such a powerful person. And thank you for the work that you do and your willingness to stand up. You do it in such a bold fashion. It's a great example for all of us, so thank you for what you do. And a great big round of applause for her and Pastor Burns. And this guy right here, I just heard him for the first time today. I may take it back to Arkansas all the time. I think we can do some further work around the country. And then I'm not sure if you're still here somewhere, but there's such great people, so thank you for allowing me to be here and share this stage with such an incredible group. It actually makes me really uncomfortable because everybody cheered as they came onto the stage, which is something that I'm not used to. It actually much better if you all shouted and yelled and instead of clapping and cheering, because that puts me a lot more at ease, because this is a very new process where people will be happy when I come into a Most of you probably know me, as Alex said, and thank you so much. What an incredible conference, what a great weekend. Look at all these people that are out here standing up, fighting for freedom, protesting their faith. What an incredible moment and such a great way to spend a Saturday. So thank you for the work that you and your team do putting on this event. But like I said, most of you know me probably as the former White House press secretary for Donald Trump. And honors in my life and an incredible job and something I will always be forever grateful for the president giving me that opportunity. It's actually not the best job I've ever had. I know that most of you will be surprised by that, but the best job I've ever had is one I still have, and that is that of a mom. I have three incredible kids. They're not that well behaved, so I can bring them today, but Charlotte, who's 7, Hawk, who is 6 next week, and George, who's 4. So 7, 6, and 4. So it's a little bit crazy at our house at all times. Most people ask me all the time, how did you do your job? How did you manage to be a mom and work in the White House? Some days we did it better than others. But at the end of the day, I found that if I included my kids, I took them with me, I engaged them in the process, that it was better. It allowed me to do both my job in the White House and also be a parent at the same time. Sometimes that didn't go very well. You know, when you mix a 7, a 6, and a 5, and a 4-year-old into life at the White House, you may have a few bumps along the way. When it came time for Bring Your Kid to Work Day, my daughter had gone with me to an event not too long before that at the White House, so I decided it was my son Huck's turn to come with me. When you name a kid Huck, you sort of set a certain expectation for him in life. He's probably going to be a little bit of a rascal, and he's lived up to every bit of that name, day in and day out. But it was his turn to go with me to this event, and I debated, can he spend and make it an entire day at the White House? You know, most of the kids that were coming were going to be 8 or 9 and a good bit older, but I said, how many times will I have the opportunity to take my son to Bring Your Kid to Work Day, and it's at the White House? So my husband and I talked about it. We decided, let's roll the dice. Huck, here we go. He got there. Huck was perfect. He was on perfect behavior. He had his tie on straight, his jacket buttoned up, his little loafers, and he was having a blast, and so was I. It couldn't have been a better day. Everything was going great. We got to the end of the day, which was kind of the big moment, the climax of the day, where all of the kids come out into the Rose Garden to take their picture with the president. It's a pretty big deal, and we're really excited, and all the kids come running out there. We did something different than the previous administration. We actually invited the press to participate and bring their kids and have their photos made with the president as well. So because the press were going to be involved, I had gone into the Oval Office to brief the president, walk him through, you come out, you take a picture, you say hi, your work is done. As a reminder, some of the kids in the crowd, their parents are reporters. So I was telling him, you may watch what you say. Of course, he ignored me. And as I'm walking him through this, I look out the window and I see the bushes in the rose garden start to violently shake. Apparently the president saw this little episode unfolding as well, and he kind of looks back, and about the time we're processing what's going on, we see this little blonde head pop up out of the rose bushes, come full force towards the window of the Oval Office, and press his face completely against the glass. The president is shocked, taken back, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, there's a little boy looking into the Oval Office." I said, "Yes, sir, that's my son, Huck." He said, "Well, sir, at least he's handsome." Not to be outdone by that, a couple minutes later, we walk out the famous door onto the colonnade, going into the Rose Garden where all the kids are gathered. And I'm about 20 to 30 yards behind the president. He's coming out the colonnade, and just as he steps out, once again, Huck wants to make a scene. He comes charging full speed directly at the president. Just before Secret Service steps in, the president kneels down to greet Huck. Unfortunately, Huck sidesteps the president, bypasses the most powerful man in the world, runs to me and jumps into my arms. So sometimes things didn't always go as well as I hoped when I was taking my kids. About 2 months later, I was sitting at home on a Saturday morning, and I'd been doing a little bit of work. I set my phone down and went to do something with my daughter Scarlett, and I came back about an hour and a half later, picked up my phone, and realized that something really bad had happened. I thought for sure our country was at war. You see, the only reason I would have thought that is because when I looked at my phone, I had dozens and dozens of calls and texts, and hundreds of emails from reporters asking me, "Sarah, what's going on? What are you trying to tell us? What does this mean?" I'm frantic trying to figure out, what in the world is all this about? After about 10 emails in, I realized that one of the emails has a tweet embedded into it. It's from my account, my official press secretary account, and it's full of emojis, planes, trains, buses, bridges, etc. I didn't realize that my son has put out a tweet from my account to the world, and it's sat there for an hour and a half with reporters trying to figure out what it is we're saying. If you haven't looked at the option of emojis on your phone lately, you should, because whatever a 4-year-old boy could put out could have been a lot worse than bridges, planes, and trucks. I was starting to get mad at Huck, and I was about to lay into it and tell him how he can't play with my phone and all these things, and I realized, wait a minute, it's infrastructure week, and Huck's perfectly on message, so instead of being upset, I was just really proud of him. When I was in the White House, a lot of times reporters would constantly ask me about the chaos that existed in the White House. They used to get extremely frustrated when I would tell them that this isn't real chaos. They wanted to see real chaos. They could come to my house in the morning and try to get 3 kids out the door on time for school and still get to work on time. They didn't appreciate that at all. I thought it was fun. But in that back and forth, I did realize that there was some chaos that could be in front of us. If we didn't decide to follow the right path, then we could see real chaos. We could see destructive chaos. If we don't re-elect President Donald Trump and we allow Democrats to take over the House and take over the Senate, then we're going to see real chaos in this country. We've never seen a divided country in the way that it is right now. It is absolutely wild, some of the ideas that Democrats are throwing out. If we want to see chaos, we'll allow Democrats to raise our taxes and create a bigger government instead of allowing this president to continue fighting for lower taxes, smaller government, and protection of your freedoms. If we want to see real chaos in the White House, then we'll allow Democrats to fight for what they are pushing is the most liberal agenda that I've ever seen in my lifetime. They want taxpayer-funded abortion on demand at any time. Thankfully, we have a president that says, not on my watch, and he's done more for the pro-life community than any president in the history of this country. And promised he would do it, and he's delivering on it every single day. If we want real chaos, we will allow Democrats to come into our homes and take our guns, which don't just mean our guns, it means our freedom. You see, what President Trump understands and what Republicans understand is that your gun isn't just a firearm. It is your God-given right enshrined in the Constitution that allows you to protect your family, defend our freedoms, and keep this country great. If we want real chaos, we will allow Democrats to appoint judges that don't care about the Constitution Constitution and want to make up their own laws. President Trump has confirmed and appointed over 150 judges that are protecting the Constitution, protecting our freedoms, and protecting our liberties. If we want real chaos, we'll allow Democrats to take that away. Religious liberty will mean nothing, and they will wipe that off the face of the map. America is at a crossroads, and we're at a time where our country is divided. But there are some things that unite us. First and foremost, we are all Americans. We have to focus on the things that bring us together. We have to remind ourselves that we are the greatest country on the face of the planet, and we shouldn't allow anybody to change that or take that away. And I think about the moment that we're in right now, and the evil that exists in the world, not just here, but around the world. We live in a very dangerous world, in a very dangerous place. But thankfully, if we come together and we focus on the things that unite us, we can preserve what matters most. I think about a story about an 11-year-old girl who went with her family to Israel. They debated as they went through all the political stops and the historical and biblical places in Israel. They went to the wall, they went to the garden tomb, and as they were coming close to the end of the trip, they were going to go to Yad Vashem. Yad Vashem is the Holocaust memorial in Israel, dedicated to the 6 million Jews that were horrifically murdered during the Holocaust. The two parents debated whether or not their 11-year-old daughter was old enough to go through the museum. You see, the pictures there are extremely graphic. And they knew that it would be a lot for any person to take in, much less an 11-year-old girl. They weren't sure if it was going to be too much, too hard for her to understand. But her parents really wanted her to know what happens when good people don't stand up for what's right. Yes. So as they led up to the last days of the trip, they debated and they continued to discuss whether or not she should go. They ultimately decided they didn't know when they'd be back, and that they would take her, and her dad would stay with her throughout the entire trip. As they would walk through, he would stand by her side, he would tell her on the way in that if at any point she got scared, just let him know when they could leave. As they entered into the museum, they had that conversation, and the little girl and the father entered in. They started walking through the museum. The little girl never said a word. She looked at the pictures of the stacks of thousands of pairs of shoes that had been taken off of the feet of children. She looked at the pictures of the bodies stacked one on top of another, of people that had been killed because good people did nothing. She didn't speak. They were about an hour into the museum and she hadn't said a word, which if anybody knows, an 11-year-old girl is quite a feat. As they walked through, the father continued, not looking at the pictures. He'd been to the museum before, but only watching his daughter, wanting to know, does she get it? Is it too much? Did we make a mistake? Should we have brought her here? The little girl continued to be silent, but as she kept going, she reached up and she started to hear the audio of some of the survivors describe in detail the horrors that they had lived through. As she started to listen to that, she reached up and grabbed her father's hand, still not speaking. And as they walked through, she grabbed it tighter and tighter. They got to the end. They'd spent about 3 hours in the museum, all the while never saying a word. The dad constantly wondering, what have we done? Have we hurt our daughter? Have we put something in her head that we can't take out, that we can't explain to her and she can't understand? As they got to the end, they noticed that there was a guest book. They walked over to the guest book. The little girl reached up into her father's pocket, where she knew he always kept a pen. She took it out, and in the place for her address, she wrote it down, her childish 11-year-old scrawl. The father looked over her shoulder, wondering if she would do anything more than write her address. There was a section for comments, and most of the people that came through had put notes in there about their experience. As he looked over her shoulder, he saw her move her hand from the address spot to the comments. And in that place, he wrote words that neither he nor she will ever forget. Why didn't somebody do something? Why didn't somebody do something? The reason I get emotional telling that story, I was the 11-year-old girl, and that was my father's Christians like yourselves have to always be the somebodies who do something. We live in the greatest country on the face of the planet, and we have to do everything we can to preserve it. There are enemies abroad that want to take that away. They want to change the way that America works, operates, thinks, and functions. But we are a country of greatness, not because of government, not because of anything that happens in Washington, D.C., but we are a country of greatness because of our Creator, because of God, because of His divine intervention, and because of the fact that He's placed in the hearts and minds of people across this country a love to do what is right, a love for freedom, and a love for liberty. Let's go out. Let's leave here today. Let's leave this conference. Let's go back home to our communities. Let's be the somebodies who do something every single day. Let's make sure we're doing what's right. We're standing up for our beliefs, and let's go out and be those somebodies. Thank you so much.